Okay, let's get started. Now we are discuss about the Poetics by Aristotle, Theory of Imitations. First lectures we are covered introduction, Plato's idea of imitations. Poetry is twice removed from reality. Now we are discuss about Aristotle concept of imitations, new dimensions. Aristotle thus was not the originator of the terms mimesis in connections with the fine arts, but he added new dimensions to the term. He gave it a significance which removed the sense of inferiority attached to it by Plato. The concept of imitation, according to Aristotle, unity, unity is poetry and all other fine arts. Art, however, imitates more merely the appearance or the external of this world. Art deals with the very essence of thing. There is a creative production of the external world in accordance with the artistic's idea. Poetry is thus an imitation of a shadow, but it is the imitation of the ideal reality. Poetry achieves idealizations by dealing with the essential while discarding the accidental and transcendent. Transcendent means accusations. Sorry, transcendence means momentary or permanent. Poetry deals with the universal and the idea. The significance of poetic truth is that it is universal and essential and permanent. Thus, Aristotle defined it poetry and offered a wider scope and greater significance to the term imitation. Thus, imitation is not mere lavish copying. It is not mere representation of the outward appearance. Thus, imitation is of the deeper reality or the very basic elements of human nature. Poetry linked with music in Aristotle's concept of imitation. A tragic poet represents a man with a nature better than average. This would not be possible in an imitation which copied external appearance alone. It would be possible only if the poet represented an idea of human nature. It is significant that Aristotle links poetry with music. Music, obviously enough, is not an imitation in the sense of mere copying of appearances. As Hamilton Fryer observed, a composer of a pastoral symphony does not try to make noise like pigeons and chickens, but creates a special atmosphere with his artistic skill and makes the hearer feel the emotion he felt in the countryside. It is in this sense that a poet communicates his emotion by imitations or recreating life. It is a presentation of the inner feelings and moods and emotions of human nature. So, poetry is an imitation of the deep inner feelings and ideas of man. The poet's imaginations color this imitation, thus, poetic imitation becomes significant. It's creative medium of imitations. All art then is a mode of imitation, yet there are differences between the various modes of imitations. One such difference lies in their medium of imitation. Painting, like other form of art, is also a mode of imitation. The medium of the poet and the painter are different. The painter's medium of imitation is color and form. The poet's is rhythm and harmony. Aristotle defines an affinity between and music. The musician too imitates their rhythm and harmony. Poet is near to music than to painting, as it too imitates through harmony and rhythm. To this, it adds language as well. The linking of poetry and music is significant, as it suggests that poetry is something above mere mimicry. Poetry itself is of different kinds, differing from each others in their manner of imitation or in their object of imitation. The object of poetic imitation. The next aspect of third fourth classification performed by Aristotle is that of the object of imitation. The objects of poetic imitations are men in action. These men may be either better than or lower than the average man in real life. Men as they were or they ought to be. Thus, imitation in poetry is clear, distinct from photographic presentation. It is a process involving the creating imagination and the intellectual facility of the poet. Tragedy and epic deal with man better than in real life. Comedy and satire imitates men worse than they are in real life. Aristotle doesn't give much importance to these that present man exactly as they are found in real life. In this connection, it would be necessary to solve the side confusions that arises because of what Aristotle said elsewhere, namely that art imitates nature. At first sight, he seems to be at variance with what he says in the Poetic, that the object of imitation are men in action, but the ambiguity is clear. Ambiguity is easily solved. When Aristotle talks of natures, he does not mean the visible created things of nature. He is referring to the process, not to object of imitates. The poet, according to his theory, imitates the creative process of nature, but his subject matter was man, and the object of poetic imitation was human life in all its manifestation. He means the creative force, the productive principle of the universe. When he is talking of nature being imitated in art, art seeks to produce an inward process of physical energy work. Outwards deals incidents, events, situation being under it, so far as these spring from an inward act of will or alice, activity of thought or feelings, as Butcher observes. Imitation of outward as well inward activity. In this connection, we must deal a little in detail with Aristotle's concept of character and the elements of human life that are presented in poetry. They are mental dispositions in human nature which have a permanent quality about them. Then there are the emotional mood and feelings. They are transitory aspect of human psyche. No, men in action includes their thought, feelings, will, motives, and emotions. Poetry is an Imitation of human life. Action involves the inward life of man's world, not merely the outward events, which in any case are the result of inward motive. Aristotle observing that poetry is concerned with man in action, exclude from the sphere of poetry the psychological, the physical world containing landscape and animals. Thus, the whole universe is not considered a material for poetry. The poet is concerned with human beings and their actions. But in this imitation is involved the effort of creative imaginations. The poet does not produce a literal copy of word as he sees it. The landscape and animals might form only a background to the inward activity of the soul of man. Thus, we see that inner world of man is very much the object of imitation in poetry. Aristotle, it might be remarked, did not know much about the flashy school of fiction as R.A. Scott James remarks. But one might say that the imagination is taxed all the more if it has to create life as it might be rather than represent it as it actually is. It is when the imagination conceives of life as it might be, it is an exciting activity. Imagination then becomes an impulse capable of inspiring poetry. The manner of poetic imitation. Yet another way in which the different art way differ in their manner of imitation. Poetry itself is of different types because of different manner of imitations involved in different types. There is the pure narrative poet who may contain speaking in the same person without change. Another kind of poetry is that in which the poet may imitate by no speaking in native and no in an assumed role. Aristotle gives the example of Homer. The third manner of imitation is that in which the whole story is represented in the form of an action carried out by the several person as in real life. This, of course, is the dramatic mood of poetry. Abricbia rightly remarks, within the scope Aristotle has assigned to his subject, all poems may be classified either as narrative or dramatic. Thus, poems which resemble each other in the object may differ in the manner of imitation and the other way. Rounds Folkley says a tragic poet might be classed with Homer, but as a dramatic poet with Aristophanes. Okay, do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.